Hello everyone, and welcome to the June edition of the Farmers Supply Association Agriculture Report. I'm Randy Kopechka, agronomist with Farmers Supply Association. Today I want to give a crop update on where we are right now, things to be looking for as we go into the month of June. We're taping on June the 5th, so pretty early in the month. We've had a very warm May. We've set records, I think, for probably the warmest May ever when you look at overall temperatures, so that has really speeded up crop development considerably. So things are happening pretty fast. As far as rainfall, it's been kind of sporadic. You know, we've been really wet in some areas, other areas less wet, so it's, you know, overall our moisture situation is pretty good, but it's been sporadic. Some people have gotten quite a bit too much rain, some people about right, and it's just been a mixed bag as far as precipitation goes. Just kind of want to go crop by crop, our three major crops, and just want to tell where we're at, kind of the situation the crop is in right now, and then some things we need to be thinking about as we go through the month of June. First, corn, and as you can see behind me, our corn crop is just really, probably looks the best I can ever remember for this time of year. That's all about that warm May we had. Corn is just like rice. It's all based, development and growth of the crop is really based mainly on heat unit development. So when you have the kind of temperatures we had in May, it really makes that corn grow quickly. We've got our fertilizer out on most of the corn in a pretty timely manner. We had that dry weather back in the earlier part to mid-May, and we got our fertilizer out in a timely manner. And most of you that have been around corn know that really has a big growth spurt when you have that kind of, when you get that fertilizer out there and you have the warm weather, you have some unbelievable growth spurts. So the corn crop is growing very fastly right now. It's developing quickly, and we expect things to be happening quickly, tasseling and everything to be happening pretty soon, and really quick development of this corn crop. It really looks good, and so we've got the potential to have a good corn crop. A lot of things need to go right between now and harvest, obviously, but really looks like we've got a chance to have a really good crop. It's certainly, if you look at cosmetic appearance right now. Things our corn farmers need to be looking at right now, obviously irrigation. We've had a little bit of corn irrigation this year, but mostly we've had enough rains to really keep the crop going. But a few days when the corn gets to this stage, and especially when you get to that tasseling stage, you just get a few days and you're needing to water quickly. The corn will be rolling up, it'll be going into drought stress. So really got to stay on top of irrigation needs. And when we go through these wetter periods, it seems like sometimes we maybe get a little lazy, not realizing how quickly it's going to come upon us. But when that corn needs irrigated, we got to be ready to go. So that's number one. Pre-tassel nitrogen. Most of our corn farmers now put a pre-tassel nitrogen shot, obviously right before tasseling, about 100 pounds of urea. So we got to be ready to do that when the time comes. Also need to be thinking about, after tasseling, between tasseling and brown silk, think about fungicide applications. Most of our farmers that are really pushing yields on corn are putting out a fungicide application, so we need to be thinking about that again between full tassel and brown silk, somewhere in there. And also we've got more conventional corn being grown, so we got to think about insects a little bit. The southwestern corn borer is certainly one that can be a problem on conventional corn, and we've got more conventional corn. The extension agents in our area do a really good job of trapping for these, so we need to be keeping up with trap counts for them. And if we need to make insecticide applications for the southwestern corn borer, we need to be ready to do that. So that's kind of where we're at with corn. Again, it really looks good, so I think we've got a good chance for have a good crop with corn. Next, rice. We're really trying to get this rice crop shaped up. It's been a battle from the start. We had the cold April, which kind of hurt things. The warm weather, again, just like with corn, really helped with rice. So our rice crop that was planted on a timely manner, it's really starting to grow pretty quickly. One of the big issues we've had is getting our nitrogen fertilizer out in the proper way. We've always liked to talked about getting our nitrogen fertilizer, our urea, out on dry ground, and then following that with the flood to get it incorporated and used very efficiently. We've had so many rainy periods and wet periods, it's been hard to get our fertilizer out in a timely, efficient manner. So that may hurt us in the end, but we're trying to get that shaped up and get some late fertilizer on some of these later fields, trying to get the soil dried up and get that fertilizer on dry ground. And if we can do that and get this warm weather, this crop will really take shape. But it's just been a battle, especially with the fertilization. Somewhat with weed control as well. When you get all these rainy days, it's sometimes hard to get herbicide applications out in a timely manner. So we've had some battles as far as fertilization, as far as weed control, but overall I still think we got a chance to shape this thing up and really look a lot different here in a few weeks. So that's kind of where we're at with our rice. Things to look for, weeds coming through. You know, a lot of times we go to flood, we think we've got a clean crop, and then we start having some weeds, grass come through. So we need to really be on top of that and, you know, be ready to make the appropriate herbicide application if we need to. So try to stay on top of that weed control situation. Also, when mid-season gets here, when the crop goes from vegetative to reproductive, there's some herbicide applications we need to be making as far as some of our black-seeded weeds, which we're concerned about. Indigo, coffee bean, morning glory, those can be docked at the buyer or the elevator if you don't control those. So that's usually the timing we look at to control those weeds, is right around that mid-season time frame. So we need to be sure if we've got those out there, take care of them in a timely manner. Try to get that mid-season nitrogen out there in a timely manner. And remember, we need to wait 3 weeks from your pre-flood nitrogen application until we put that mid-season out there, even if it's past internode movement. Don't worry about so much the stage it's in. We want it to be at least at beginning internode movement, but we want it to be at least 3 weeks from that pre-flood application. That way it's had time to take up that pre-flood nitrogen application before we put that mid-season out there. After that, we'll start thinking about diseases. Sheath blight probably number one that we start thinking about after that mid-season fertilizer goes out. So we'll need to be scouting for sheath blight, making applications of fungicides when appropriate. So that's where we're at with rice, trying to get the crop shaped up. It's been a battle, but I think we'll get there, you know, within the next few weeks. So hopefully that will happen and we can have good weather for a good rice crop. Soybeans, always the big mixed bag at this time of year. We've got early soybeans that are blooming. We've got late soybeans that are still in the bag that haven't been planted yet. So, you know, a big range of crop conditions there and stages of growth and things like that. We still got quite a few soybeans left to plant because we've dealt with a lot of wet conditions that have kept us from getting beans planted, having to replant some. Just a reminder that all of the research over the last several years has shown that the Group 4 varieties hold up well even to these late plantings. We used to always think you need to switch to a later maturing variety at these later plantings, but the Group 4s hold up well. So if you were wanting to plant a Group 4, which most people are, you don't necessarily have to switch at this stage of the game. Also, we need to treat that seed that we're planting late with an inoculant. This can help with nitrogen fixation, provides the bacteria for nitrogen fixation, and university research has really shown big yield advantages to putting this inoculant on these June and July plantings, up to a 10 bushel yield increase from that, so let's keep that in mind. Of course, the things to look for: weed control. These pigweeds have been loving this warm weather and moisture. The pigweeds have been growing very fast this year. So we've got to get those herbicide applications, whether it be Liberty and Liberty Link beans, Flex Star in the Roundup Ready and conventional system. We've got to be very timely with these herbicide applications, or these pigweeds will get away from you very quickly. And we're seeing some of that this year. So be very, very timely on your herbicide applications. Also, sometimes in the vegetative stage during June, we'll get some defoliators in here. Not that often, but we may get some armyworms and some other defoliators out there. So we need to be, you know, looking at our fields and making sure there's not any insects out there causing problems. Before bloom, we look at 40% defoliation as a threshold. After bloom, we look at 25% defoliation as a threshold. So that's another thing to be looking at this time of year. So, you know, all in all, we've been through some battles with cold weather. We've been through some rain issues and some other storm issues. We've had hail and wind damage this past week as well. So we battled through these things, and I think, you know, if the weather will cooperate, we can really shape this crop up during the month of June and be set up for that reproductive stage beginning later in June and into July, and really set ourselves up for a good crop. So if you have any questions on anything related to this, you can contact me through Farmer Supply Association. And this has been Randy Kopechka with the June edition of the Farmer Supply Association Agriculture Report.